Dateline, 20th of March. Website, morning.computer. Short Things by Warren Ellis. I would dearly love more 5-minute podcasts. Some podcasts seem to take 5 minutes just listing and talking up their sponsors. Find the shape that the piece actually fits rather than the shape the current culture expects it to be. You might be more likely to finish it. Hell, I might be more likely to finish it. So I did record a version of that quote with Uncle Warren's accent, but in my mind's ear I can only ever hear him after Stephen Fortune made him drink another bottle of wine in less than 40 minutes. So it came out a bit towy, and I thought that was a bit bad, so I didn't. So I always wanted to do a podcast. In fact, I had one for 3 years, in 2003 to 2006, so early doors in that respect. I recorded it on one of those little white MacBooks, if you remember those. It was a slightly eccentric music podcast with my friend Mark at university. He had a cat called Hendrix that used to come and sit with us while we recorded it, and he was the co-host. I was on another one called Start, Select, Reset, which was about video games in probably 2008, and that was terrible. I'm pretty glad that none of those exist on the internet anymore. But coming back to the quote, so I've been thinking about doing a short form podcast for a long time. In fact, I've recorded a couple of them. I did a whole series about Squarial, the British rival to Rupert Murdoch's Sky TV, and I threw it all in the bin. Some of that content did see the light of day at DebCon 1 though. And the reason I threw it all in the bin was because each episode that I recorded, in my mind's eye, I thought of it as a jewel. I wanted it to be amazing, and every time I recorded it, it just didn't come out the way I wanted it to. And that's the reason why I'm doing this podcast, because I have absolutely no intention of it being a jewel. So what do I want to do? Not sure really. Kind of inspired by Mikey's long form newsletters, which I miss. And I don't know, what am I inspired by? It's got to be weird. It's got to be really weird. I've got loads of content sitting on my laptop. Field recordings from Chernobyl. Weird interviews recorded drunk on my phone with the microphone I've been carrying around with me for about 5 years. Yeah. So I set myself a couple of ground rules about this podcast project thing that I'm going to be doing now. First of all, it shouldn't take me any longer than an hour from start to finish, writing and recording, because, well, I'm a busy man. So, well, I'm not. I've been unemployed since September, but you get my picture. What else? Going to pick the topic on the day. Just go into it completely blind. I think that's probably quite a good idea and quite fun to do. I mean, I've already failed at recording this podcast in an hour because I spent 2 hours this morning making the theme tune intro in Renoise, so that's a complete failure. But I quite like the idea of kind of settling down and ranting into the microphone for 5 minutes, because did a lot of stuff with voice when I was at university, and I got quite used to listening to the sound of it. And, if you ever met me, I quite like it. So there you go. Speaking of liking the sound of your own voice, since I've been sitting here recording this morning, there's a thing that my friends always complain about, how I just power down in the middle of a sentence, just complete dead air when I'm speaking. Just at the end of a sentence, I'll just stop and then I'll start talking again. Sometimes it can go on for 10, 15 seconds when I'm trying to speak. It gets worse when I'm drunk, but it's pretty funny being able to see it on the display and just watch it go completely dead. And I think I'm gonna leave it in, because it's how I think, it's how I talk, it's, articulation and all that, and there's not really much I can do about it. So anyway, I should probably wrap it up, and that's it. Thanks. I'm at the JMO on the socials, and this has been episode 1801 of Permanently Moved Online, a podcast in 301 seconds.